Today we're here to talk about some changes that are coming up for the 2014 primary and general elections here in Bernalillo County. And they're positive changes, but we want to make sure that the public is all aware of them because in some cases they're potentially going to impact the way people vote and where they vote. And so to start things off, I want to talk briefly about some changes that have been made to early voting. Every election, we are, just due to the real estate market in Albuquerque, typically we have to move from a previous location. Most of our early voting sites are commercial sites that we lease for the purpose of the election. And so we've been very fortunate over several election cycles to maintain most of our polling locations in the same place for early voting. But every cycle we do typically have to move a few. And what we do is we strive to keep them very close as possible to the previous location. But I do just want to mention a few of the changes, and the most prominent one is the one that we are in right now, and this is going to be the new clerk's office annex located here at 111 Union Square Southeast. We are relocated from our old location at 620 Lomas, and the reason why I want to make a really strong point about this move is because we had a typically quite a heavy volume of voting at the old Clerk's Annex location. And what happened was the School for the Deaf, which had, or the Albuquerque Sign Language Academy, which had occupied half of the building in the past, has now moved into the rest of the building at 620 Lomas. So we are now here at Union Square, and this is going to be our permanent location for early voting for the county clerk's office moving forward. So we're very excited about that, but we just want to make sure that people know about that change. And then we've also had a few other locations that have moved since the last election, and I'll name them briefly, but they're up here. They're still in the same, within a 1 mile vicinity of the previous location, because we really strive with all of our early voting locations to keep them spaced out geographically so that we're serving the maximum number of the voting populace across the county, and we don't like to cause too much confusion when we do these moves. So we have a new location at Glenwood Village at 12611 Montgomery Northeast. That was previously at Caracol Plaza. Again, the Clerk's Annex has moved here to 111 Union Square, previously at 620 Lomas. We have a new location at the Fiesta del Norte Shopping Center, which was previously at Conejos Office Park. We have a new voting location for early voting at West Bluff Center, previously Coors Plaza. And that West Bluff Center location is down near the Walmart at Coors and I-40. So it's in that shopping center. We have a new location at the South Valley Multi-Generational Center, which was previously Goff Plaza. One at Los Ranchos Villa, previously Guadalupe Plaza. One at Petroglyph Plaza, previously Paseo del Norte Shopping Center, and one at Willow Village Shopping Center, previously Siesta Hills. And I ran through those. All of those locations are available on our website at BernCo.gov/elections, BernCo.gov/clerk. So those are all up there, the current locations. But I did want to make those notes and want the public to make sure that they know. And what we will do is we will endeavor to try to have some signage at those previous locations so that voters, if they do show up to vote there during the early voting period or on election day, know that the location has moved, as we've done in the past with previous voting locations. So moving on to the next change, and I'm going to speak briefly about the new tabulators, and then I'm going to talk about how we're going to be demoing the new tabulators to the public, and then I will have our staff do a demo here so you all can see how they work in action. But the state, last fall, the Voting System Certification Committee approved certification for 2 new voting systems here in New Mexico. The state selected a new voting system called Dominion, and the systems that we're implementing here in Bernalillo County are called the ImageCast Evolution. And basically there's not going to be a whole lot of difference to the voter. The voter is still going to come in, they're going to check in at with a clerk, give their name, their voting information to the clerk. We'll issue them a ballot. They'll take their ballot to a voting booth, and then they'll feed their ballot, into the voting machine to be tabulated. And so for the average voter, the experience isn't going to really be fundamentally that different than it was before. But nonetheless, we wanted to make everybody aware of this change. There are some significant improvements that these new machines offer, particularly to voters with disabilities and also to us as election administrators, which is why we're implementing the new voting systems. So, for example, the ImageCast Evolution has improved visual feedback when the ballot is accepted, as well as audio feedback. So what that means is on the previous machines, you'd feed in your ballot and you'd have to sit there and look at the public counter number and wait for it to go up by one so that you knew your ballot was counted. Now, when you feed your ballot in, you'll see the public counter is very visually available. You'll see the number go up by one. There is a visual indicator and an audio indicator that the ballot has been accepted. And so the voter can walk away with an increased level of confidence that their ballot has been counted before they left the polling location. It does take less time to accept the ballot. In the past, the older technology, it took about 30 seconds to process a ballot, especially at an early voting site or at an election day site utilizing vote centers. And so the voters won't have to wait as long for their ballot to be counted. It's going to be an improved experience for voters requiring assistance. We have this 19-inch visual screen now that we didn't have before in our previous ballot assist terminal. And we also have a voluntary voting system guidelines certified audio and sip and puff assistance. So for voters who have issues with eyesight, who are blind, they'll have an audio guide that directs them through the process to cast their ballot. For voters who have who are maybe disabled in terms of not being able to use their arms or their hands to fill out a ballot, they can utilize a sip and puff device in order to cast their ballot as well. That's not fundamentally different from the previous equipment that we had, but again, the technology is improved and enhanced, and it should function better than in the past. The system also has improved reporting features, and that's going to be really important, I think, especially to you all in the media, because basically what it will enable us to do is to produce election results a lot more quickly, to make them available to the public a lot more quickly, and also it will have built-in redundancy on our side. In the past, we were having to read the results from the election on these memory cards. We were having to read them multiple times in order to be able to produce results on election night and then produce them for the canvass of results. Now we'll just be able to do it in one fell swoop. And because the results are kept on dual memory cards in these machines, it will allow us to reproduce the results in the unlikely event of a card failure. In the past, with the previous technology, we did have card failures, and so if they came back from the polls on election night and we read them, we fed them into the machine to produce the results. If the card failed, we'd have to go back and feed those ballots through all over again. Now we'll have that dual, we'll have that, that backup device, so in case something like that should happen, we don't have to go through that extra process. We do have improved tabulator security with the new machines. This machine will record every time a door is opened, every port that's accessed. Basically anytime the machine is interacted with in anything but a standard voting process, there is an audit log. And then these are compliant with the current voluntary voter system guidelines, which is the national standard in functionality, accessibility, and security. So we feel very happy to have the new machines, but of course, the machines look good. They've performed really well in demonstrations. We're very excited about the new technology, but we also know that until these machines are actually tested in the field, we won't know what types of issues could arise. And so it's really important to us not only to make sure the voters have an opportunity to interact with these machines before Election Day, because again, even though it's not going to be a fundamentally different experience for the voter, we do understand that anytime you introduce a new element into the voting process, it can cause maybe some confusion or some just concern about how is this all going to work. And so we're going to give voters the opportunity to interact with these machines before Election Day. And not only will that give the voters the opportunity to do that, it will give our staff the opportunity to see how these machines perform in real life before an election. So before the really important day when we can't afford to have any problems arise. And so we are going to be hosting a mock election on Saturday, March 22nd. and we will be hosting it at 2 locations. We will be hosting it here at the Clerk's Annex at 111 Union Square, and we will be hosting it at Daskalo Center at 5339 Manal Boulevard. And those locations will be open from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Saturday the 22nd. And a voter will be able to come in and have the same experience they would on Election Day. They'll be issued a ballot. They'll go to a voting booth, fill out their ballot, and then feed it into the machine. And so we're asking folks to come participate if they're nearby either of these locations, to come by and it should only take about 5 minutes of your time. Come in and go through the experience, not only for yourself to familiarize yourself with the new system, but also for our staff to know how these machines are going to function in the field, and we think it could be a great win-win situation. We're also going to have a voter outreach booth at both of those locations, so we'll have voter registration, third-party agent training, and poll official information at those locations.